Donate now to Oso Washington mudslide relief efforts.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kerry Ilanumi. This is the NoSpinNewsSource.com monthly report for April 2014. We have an exciting show for you, video footage, lots of news, breaking news, and telling you once again, as always, stuff that is to come and more evidence and proof of the claims that I've been making over the last 8 years of my life on the record as a political and economic forecaster. So, hold on to your seat. It's going to be an exciting show. Now, I've been mentioning about World War III tension being created between us, the United States of America, and Russia, China, toward a thermonuclear World War III potential showdown in which is only escalating in the odds of that potential possibility playing out. The tension is heating up and economic sanctions are an act of war, according to what would be former Congressman and presidential candidate Ron Paul. So even he is stating himself, and since the last show, that is right, economic sanctions have been placed against what would be Russia from the United States. Freezing accounts, we're pushing it, folks, and the lines of war are being drawn. Hostilities are happening, and who knows what it could lead to. Now, telecoms could be forced to collect even more metadata under Obama's NSA overhaul. I stated that a couple months back too, that would happen. More Americans see the middle class status slipping, according to a news article by AP, Associated Press, recently. Ron Paul stated as well that the Ukraine aid bill is a bad deal for everybody involved. The United States, the Ukrainians, and the Russians. It's only fermenting the flames between us and them. We want to get along with the other world leaders, Russia and China. We really do not want to have tension and problems with them. So, as I've mentioned before as well, many folks in the music industry, well-known artists that have millions of followers throughout the planet, talented musicians and folks. Jonathan Davis of the rock band Korn from Bakersfield, California, for instance. He's becoming more political and speaking his opinion, him and his band Korn are, through what would be their music. Now at this point, I'm going to show you the interview of what would be Jonathan Davis of Korn on the Alex Jones show, and then afterward I will show you what would be video footage of the new video of Korn's called Spike in My Veins, which discuss the interesting police state and the parables that we are seeing panning out today in this Orwellian 1984 style police state. See you in a moment.
And you're listening to the Alex Jones broadcast. This is InfoWars Live. The music video you're watching, if you're seeing us at PrisonPlanet.tv, is Spike in My Veins by the mega hit rock group Korn, Korn.com. You want to go there and see the entire video in HD. It's from their new best-selling album just out, The Paradigm Shift. And I've been a big fan of Korn for a long time. Most people that like rock and roll or heavy metal obviously love Korn. And they join us, or he joins us right now. So, Jonathan, I really want to salute you. I know you've always had courage, but it's bold to have videos that have the dear leader on them, our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, huh?
Well, I know folks that are big entertainment, and they're all scared. They don't like Bush either, but, they don't like what Obama's doing, but they're scared to ever even criticize him in any way. Well, tell us about the video. Tell us why you made it and what's going on.
I just think, for a long time I've been into what's going on with our country. I'm not necessarily consider myself a political person, but over the years I've seen what's been going on, and it's called to me that it's time to do something about what's going on with our country and the system and everything that's going on. It seems really sad that everybody's so asleep and oblivious to the fact that the country is in the media to, capture people's attention or take away from the fact that, what's going on with our country. really freaked me out. The whole Miley Cyrus thing was going on, and when that went down, Barack passed that new law that he can imprison anyone he wants. He doesn't have to charge them. He can keep there as long as he wants. It's just basically all our liberties are being taken away one by one. And finally, I feel like it's time. I got to do something and let these, try and get as many people as we can to wake up and see what's really going on.
Tell us about the paradigm shift.
I mean, I think it's time for us as normal people to come up and fight against the powers that be. I think this country was founded and based in the beginning and set up for us to have revolutions when we don't like our government and what our government has done and taken over and taken away all our privacy and, all the things going on with the drones and everything. I mean, everything. It's a scary time, and I think that someone's got to do it in our position. Someone's got to, speak out to the younger audience and let them know what's going on and try to wake up and take back their privacy.
Well, when we think about the raping of our privacy, I mean, it's beyond 1984.
Oh, it is, dude. They're everywhere. I mean, look at it. Big alive and well. I mean, you're looking at me on my camera phone. I mean, it wasn't about putting up cameras. I think we already got the cameras everywhere. You can't tell me that there's no back doors for everybody to see. For the powers that be can see what we're doing and watch what we're doing at all times. I'm not comfortable with that, and I think it needs to go. They're getting ready. They're building a huge ass building. The NSA is for all the spying, and it's just going to get worse and worse. And I mean, it's scary times, brother.
That's right, and it's totally illegal as well, but they're just doing it. And I noticed in your music video, you show a bunch of the pop people up front, and that was my interpretation, but you just said it, that they're using this to project and distract us with all this empty fluff while our basic freedoms are being drained away.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Nobody cares what's going on behind the closed doors when Obama makes all these crazy laws that take away more and more of our privacy and make him more of a dictator. Something's got to happen, man. It's got to stop.
Well, you just said it. Wow. Obama becoming a dictator, and then when he leaves, the Republicans will have dictatorial power. Why do you think Obama is becoming a dictator? Give us your breakdown on that.
I mean, I said it before. I think he's an Illuminati puppet.
Yeah.
I think that, it just doesn't make sense, the whole thing. I mean, the guy comes from out of nowhere. He gets made president. All this stuff starts happening. I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. I mean, and to believe, top it off, I'm not really a political person. I don't know much about it. I'm just worried about my privacy and my children's privacy. And this being America, we're supposed to be landing free, and it's becoming a police state.
I know so many other big people that are scared to even say anything, even mild. And the fact that it's called courage by your fans, which it is courage in this world of tyranny, as George Orwell said, in a world of universal deceit, telling the truth, a revolutionary act, it shows how far down the rabbit hole of tyranny we are, that it is ballsy for you to have the will in your band to put out that music video. Yeah, it is. I guess it is. I mean, for us, it was just, we're having fun. It's like, let's really throw all this out there and see what happens, because every time I've ever said anything against Obama or any kind of done anything political like that, I end up having composed all this stuff. It's so funny. I have clips I've saved where, like, I called Obama a Illuminati puppet, or when I wanted a certain political or a presidential candidate, all this stuff. It's funny how you just say something like that and it gets so much coverage. So hopefully this is going to help. What do you see in the future, either outside of Illuminati control or if we don't defeat them? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's pretty insane that the world, internationally in the world, there's a lot of places that are rising up, having revolutions because they don't like the government. I just think it's time for us to follow suit. That's everyone's right to do whatever they want. That's why we have this country. Now, Jonathan Davis, I can talk a lot, but I want to give you in the 5-6 minutes we have left a chance to basically take over the airwaves and just anything you want to talk about, anything in the world going on. After this interview's over, I know you're going to wish you would have said something, so say it now. I just want us to become the country we used to be. I remember when I was a kid how amazing our country was. And as I've grown up and watched things happen, I just want it to be like it used to be. And like I said, I'm not a really political person. I don't want to come off like I don't know what I'm talking about, but
I really want to leave a world for my kids to, have the liberties and the privacy that this country was founded on.
If you don't have privacy, you don't have freedom. You're a slave. It's that simple.
It's really that simple. Nobody wants the government knowing what they're doing. The government, it's none of their business. It's crazy that this is happening. I'm hearing stories that they're just trying to take our guns now. There's all kinds of scary stuff going on. It's sad, bro. We need to get it together.
Korn.com. How do you guys keep it so original? Because talking to other big music talents, they say that's the biggest thing. It's easy to do 1 record, 2 records, 3 really hard, 4 super hard. I mean, is that true? It gets harder each time?
I think it gets harder each time if you don't experiment. For us, we've always tried to be innovators. We've always tried to do something different from the last record. And that's what keeps it fun for us. So I think it's the longevity of the band. We've been around so long because we're constantly evolving and being artists. I mean, you don't want to do the same thing over and over again. So I feel blessed to still be here after 20 years doing this.
Well, we got to salute the rest of your band because, I mean, I'm sure they all had to agree to be part of this evil sacrilege, this blasphemy of criticizing the dear leader. So, wow, they sound like thought criminals like you.
We all are, right? The world needs us.
Jonathan Davis, I really appreciate you spending so much time with us. Korn.com. Folks can find you at Facebook.com/Korn, Twitter.com/Korn. Give us just...
The NSA
secretly tracks telephone data on the internet for the program.
she had reached a tipping point here.
Councilman, let me interrupt you. Justin Bieber has been arrested on a number of charges.
Questions about the National Security Agency's massive spy center under construction in the desert of Utah. Once finished, it'll be 5 times the size of the U.S. Capitol building.
Always pray.
don't hold data on U.S. citizens. That's they take protecting your privacy as the most important thing that they do. Nobody's listening to content of people's phone.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Now, pretty interesting how even musicians, rock stars, are getting politically active, but many people are still sitting at home in front of the television, getting fat, getting lazy, letting their mind and body waste away, eating pizza, drinking beer, watching a football game on TV, while even folks like Korn are getting politically active. Huh. Looks like they're serving their country more than many Americans are. That's too bad. Now, there's an article here discussing it's a record year of corporate profits and what that means for the United States economy. Now here's the chart. This isn't the economy going up. This here is the aggregate on the aspect of how much money your corporations are making off of you. So, isn't it nice to know while you're losing sleep at night and you can barely afford to pay the bills? Or maybe you're living somewhere like this that's over my shoulder, out in the middle of the woods and the mountains. Who knows? But at least you know these corporation fat cats have plenty of billions to waste and throw away. Doesn't that soothe your nerves? Surely doesn't soothe mine. Now, I met with what would be Stuart Rhodes of the Oath Keepers, oathkeepers.org, recently in Tacoma, Washington, a couple weeks back. Delighted to have met the man, an honor to meet him. He came to Tacoma, God bless his soul. And we had a huge group dialogue and folks discussed what would be the situation. We discussed what would be the Oso mudslide, which just happened here north of where I reside in Arlington, Washington, up toward Darrington, which is a tragedy that we'll be discussing further in the show. And we discussed what we would do as an organization if folks were to say to hand over your guns. And the conclusion is, the answer is no, we will not hand them over. So it's not just about what we would do, it's also about what we wouldn't do when those tyrannical laws, God forbid, do come down the pipeline. So I'm going to show you what would be pictures of what would be Stuart Rhodes that I personally took during the meeting in the show. But we will continue on. Now, what would be this mudslide? The quote is, "It was unforeseen." Now, we have a lot of folks here in the state of Washington, including what would be state reps, the governor, other people that are getting put under pressure by the constituency of the situation, saying, hey, we need help, we want to see more being done for those folks, understandably this and that, and everybody's trying to pass the buck somewhere else, kick the can of blame, play the blame game, and someone has to take the blame sooner or later. So while the state of Washington tried to state that this was an unforeseen event in which 36 people thus far have been deemed killed, have died from this tragic event, and there's still 10 officially missing as of today. So they stated it was unforeseen, but we have information showing otherwise, and a Seattle Times news article discussing this as well, stating that the warnings go back literally decades. Since the 1950s, there have been geological reports on the hill that buckled during the weekend in Snohomish County. And so this goes back many years. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are there now and warning of the potential for, they warned back in '99 the potential of for a large catastrophic failure along that hillside area. Exactly what happened and exactly the way that the image is shown and they forecasted. It happened. So now everybody wants to blame everybody else. You have a governor that's under pressure, you have a congressman that's under pressure, state reps under pressure, and everybody wants to point the finger somewhere else. Now, our governor, Ainsley, even contacted President Obama and put quite a bit of pressure on him. And according to the newspaper yesterday, President Obama plans on making a visit out to that area of the mudslide on the 22nd of next month, of this month, April. So, which is the 1 month anniversary of this tragic event. Will the president come to Arlington? I have no idea. But I do know this, folks. Even though you're desperate, even though this will kind of make you feel like perhaps your president really does care about you, even though you're hoping for a handout, and when you're desperate, you're willing to take it from wherever you can get. If you're over here drowning in the water, guess what? You don't care if it's a white man, a black man, or any other man that's out there. You're going to reach up and grab whatever hand that's there to take the handout and to be saved when you know you're drowning in what would be the situation. But the question is that I ask you, and let's get real here. Let's come back down to earth now that the high wears off of Obama, our President Obama is coming to Arlington and Oso. He must really give a damn. After that wears off, ask yourself this. Did he write any checks? Did he buy you a new home for the one you lost? Did he buy your family a new car or several cars and a boat and the things for you guys lost? Is he providing you with a job? Oh, you don't want to talk about that, do you? You want to call me a right-wing conspiracy theorist or pessimistic, anti-American? Well, BS. Let's get real. Let's get real here, folks. President Obama may come to town in 12 days from now, but let's get this straight. He doesn't give a rat's ass about you. His policies have clearly dictated that by now and reflected upon that by now. And if they haven't, then you are in for a rude awakening, and perhaps it's going to take you and your family to get swept away by a mudslide, economically speaking or otherwise, before you get the whiff and smell the coffee that's brewing in the kitchen. Now, these are innocent, decent folks, and I feel sorry for them and their families. My heart goes out to them. But let's get this straight. This situation has made us all take a step back and reflect and look at our lives, our government, our community, the people we elect. It's taken us back a couple of steps. And as sad as I am to say this, it's taken this tragic event to get people around here to start thinking and talking about the issues in which I've been discussing for years. And this isn't limited to a geological mudslide. I'm talking economically speaking. Bush, Obama. Remember, white Bush, black Bush, we're going to stay the course toward war, despair, destruction of our sovereignty, constitutional rights. You remember that? And here we are today. So, it's sad what happened with this mudslide, but at the same time, our community needed something to kick us in the ass and bring us together. And unfortunate as it is, this situation is doing exactly what we needed. Some folks won't like to hear that. You'll think that I'm opportunistically using the situation to further my gain and to get the political situation. Well, I am going to use this situation to my political gain. But it's not just to my gain, it's to the interest of the American people. If I want to bring in Glass-Steagall, it's obvious Congressman Rick Larsen isn't going to bring it in. So I have to replace him in the congressman as congressman and go do that. So I have to get elected. And every time the government screws up, I'm going to use it in their face. And I'm going to use every tragedy as a stepping stone to build the career. Not for me, but for you, the American people, because I work for you. I've been doing this for you. I don't tell you what you want to hear. I tell you what you need to hear. I tell you the truth. And at some point in the road, Republican, Democrat, Independent, nonpartisan, or whatever, you're going to have respect and like that. The problem is I'm just a little too hot for folks on the right and the left. Democrats want to call me a Republican. Republicans want to call me a left-wing liberal. That's just an excuse so you don't have to get your feet in the water and get in the hot stuff. Well, I take risk. Risky politics, as one person in here stated. in this town. It is risky, but I do what's right. And because of it, 99% of all other so-called economists and politicians are going straight down the drain. Their careers are. They're looking like an idiot. And folks like me, just a pure handful, are still coming up. I'm that economist of Washington State that told you bailouts were bad, told you the economy was going to start falling apart to begin with before bailouts, and any continuation as typified through bailout would be bad. Next was coming budget cuts, which were going to hurt the communities and everybody. Going to take away money from police and firefighters and municipalities and states, cause people to starve. They're going to take away pension and health care. I stated that. And now we only have one more thing left on that aspect, economically speaking, which is the bail-in, which is where they take your money from your bank account. And I get to come and say, I told you so. And when you didn't listen to it, you can try to subconsciously blame me and equate me with the situation. Why? Because it's easier for you to hate and take it out on me than it is your government. You don't got the nerve to call Obama or your congressman, but it's easier to flip me the crap, right? Interestingly enough. Well, things will change, and there's an old saying, you know, if you can't beat them, you join them. So I have a feeling my popularity is only coming up from here on out. So I'm feeling very confident. Now, let's talk about Obamacare, shall we? Congressman Rick Larsen emailed me recently. He wanted to let me know how successful and wonderful the Affordable Health Care Act, also known as Obamacare, is. I'd like to read you the email letter, if I may, from Congressman Rick Larsen, my soon-to-be opponent. Dear Karen, over the past few months, I've heard from many folks in the Northwest Washington who have benefited from the Affordable Health Care Act. Several people have found coverage at a lower price through Washington Health Plan Finder. Others with pre-existing conditions are able to get quality coverage to help manage chronic conditions, and some younger folks, residents, have been able to stay on their parents' insurance for a bit longer. Nearly 500,000 people in Washington State have signed up for health insurance, many of them for the first time in years or ever, it goes on to say. Thousands of families can breathe easier. These aren't my words, I'm not playing with you. He's saying literally, thousands of families can breathe easier now knowing that they have insurance that covers preventative care like checkups and cancer screenings without co-pays or co-insurance. Not familiar with these new healthcare opportunities? Then check out this video on Health Plan Finder Washington right now. So he's sticking with them. As I've advised this man at his own office in June 2012 on the 22nd of that year. Has numerous emails throughout the past as he called and wanted my advice as of December 2013 on some economic factors. I stated, Rick, you stick with Obama, it's going to be bad news. I said this 2 years ago. I said Obama may get reelected, but he's already old news. I stated this before the election. I said, I know it seems like it's against the party, against the rules, seems contradicting to go against your own kind, the Democrats, but this is where you want to separate from him. Tell your constituents that you apologize now, make it right, and separate yourself, your career from Obama, and you can walk away from this scot-free and looking good in the long run. And if he did that, he would have listened to that, then no one, including myself, would probably have much of a chance in beating him at the elections. But step by step, Congressman Rick Larsen, he's got so deep into the Titanic, so deep and close with Obamacare and all these factors, they don't know when to say when. They're holding on, and they're going to stay in the Titanic boat until it's too late. So it's a matter of time. I've already stated on the record that I don't believe I'm going to get elected this year into Congress, but I do believe what I do this year is going to turn around to where over the next 2 years, for those of you in my constituency, my district here in the 2nd District of Washington State, that don't know me yet, then those of you will have an opportunity to see my words prophetically somehow come true over the following 2 years from now. Then you'll look back at shows and even past shows several years ago And then you'll think about when mainstream news talked about this stuff, when they actually happened, the events, and you'll see when I said it, years ago. You can't beat me, you'll join me. You don't have to like me, folks, but I'm good for America, Glass-Steagall, national banking, the Constitution, and guess what? You've got a bank account then. You've got a future. You've got health care. You'll get what you need to get out of life. You stick with Obama and Bush and Clinton and these freaks of nature, and you get what you deserve. Jack shit. Simple as that. Now, we're moving onward in the show. Now, on the aspect of Russia, NASA is discontinuing what would be certain collaboration and communication with Russian astronauts as well. So, step by step, we got government sanctions, lines being drawn in the sand, folks in our government stating that it's the Russians that are violating sovereignty of other nations and they shouldn't go bullying people. This is a crock, folks. It really is. And it's getting hotter and hotter. The Attorney General, Eric Holder of Obama's, is talking about what would be mandatory tracking devices for gun owners. Yeah, that's right. They want to have a little bracelet that tracks you. Some people think that's ingenious. I think it is insane in George Orwell 1984 and even worse. I don't like that idea of tracking devices. So, also the Idaho governor, what would be signed a law into effect to nullify the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, regarding permanent detention of folks without due process. So states are beginning to say no to the Fed, legally and rightfully so. Very interesting. Obama is Dick Cheney's protector on CIA torture. That's right. Obama is protecting and keeping documents classified and keeping what would be folks such as Bush and Cheney protected. As under his administration, Obama, it is continuing. Isn't that funny? They're all in bed together. They can't tell him the other guy, because if they do, then they're also attached to it and they all go down together. It's a very intricate, weaved process in which they make sure everybody's tied to the same rope. So if the boat goes down, everybody's ankle is attached and everybody drowns. That's why this good old boy system a lot of times sticks together to the degree that they are. They're loyal because they have to be, because they're scared of what will happen otherwise, but they don't understand the bigger picture of karma and the process of how history works. And they're going to get it too. They're going to get voted out of office, and folks such as Congressman Rick Larson will end up spending his last days in a prison cell for the stuff that he's done. He has voted for and funded Al-Qaeda terrorists in Syria to help overthrow nation states in Assad. And someday these variables are going to go before international criminal courts, and these folks will be tried. Folks such as John Kerry, Hillary Clinton for what happened in Benghazi, Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, the list goes on and on. It's not, I'm blind to Republican, Democrat. It's justice here. It's about the Constitution. So, Russia wants answers on the NATO troop movement in Eastern Europe, because NATO is preparing to do whatever it takes. Feinstein on CNN states her statement stands when it comes to Senate Intelligence Committee. Chairman Dianne Feinstein asked about her dispute with the CIA about within her 40-minute speech on the Senate floor. And she said it was carefully put together. I believe it is accurate. I believe the word should stand. In those remarks, Feinstein had referred to constitutional violations committed by the Obama administration's Central Intelligence Agency. Goes on to state, quote, "The problem is that the CIA went into walled-off Senate computers in a bona fide investigation that is being done of the detention and interrogation of the detainees. Having said that, this is a problem, and it isn't the first time. It is actually the third time. So this is a serious issue. I've asked for an apology and a statement that it would never happen again. I have not received this to this day. This is of concern to me. I would really like to leave it at that," unquote. This is Dianne Feinstein saying this. This sounds almost congressional. It sounds almost like she cares about the Constitution. It's at this point when you start seeing the rats jumping ship and you start seeing some of these rat bastards and folks that normally stick together also begin to jump ship when it comes time to save their own butts. That's when they'll start acting like Americans and real patriots, is when it gets to this situation. Like she said, she'd like to leave it as that, but even she had to make the statements that she did, because if she doesn't, that means she is capitulating and protecting this, and even she knows someday someone's going to pay the price. And when it gets to that point, your butt or mine, you know how these politicians are. It's going to be you that goes down, not them, because they always save themselves. That's how these freaks tick inside. This is a LaRouchePAC.com article. Definitely something to check out. Tensions between Russia and China, or excuse me, between Russia and the United States have reached astronomical proportions in this article here, which goes on into the variables and the specifics of that. A clarion call for Obama's immediate resignation. Another LaRouchePAC.com article. Professor Michael Brenner of the University of Pittsburgh has published an in-depth bill of impeachment. That's right, against President Barack Obama, starting with Obama's role in the ongoing scandal surrounding the CIA's hacking into computers of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Brenner goes on to cite Obama and Eric Holder's flagrant violation of the law by exempting Wall Street bankers from criminal prosecution. He concludes with Obama targeting of American citizens for assassination without due process. So all the stuff I said would happen is happening. You have professors saying it's happening. You have the news mainstream beginning to report on it. It's getting to that point where you have a paradigm shift. Why does the government want to take your guns, or at least track you, so they can prepare to take your guns when they track you down? Why? Because they're scared. They see a liberty movement, folks like me coming up, and it scares them inside, because they know they're on the Titanic, and if they don't find a way to patch up that hole quick, they're going to sink, and folks like us are coming up, and we're going to take over this nation and government. And I'm feeling confident more than ever, folks. 2016, I do believe I will be elected into Congress. Britt Larson, au revoir. You're already gone, buddy. I'm going to be your successor. You wait and see. The British Imperial BAE hand behind global terror. That's right, a lawsuit by the families of the victims of September 11, 2001 terror attacks has forced out a treasure trove of documents proving that Lyndon LaRouche has been what he's been saying for years. The old man's always right. Behind the 9/11 attacks was the hand of the British Empire working through the allied Saudi Arabian factions. In effect, September 11 was the work of the BAE Al-Yamama. That's what it's called, BAE Al-Yamama, unquote. Anglo-Saudi imperial apparatus which forms the core of the ongoing British Sykes-Picot control over the entire Persian Gulf and extended Southwest Asia. According to a news account in today's New York Times, attorneys representing the 9/11 families have received thousands of pages of previously undisclosed documents detailing Saudi royal family financing of Al-Qaeda and Taliban prior to the 9/11 attacks. Some of those documents, including U.S. Treasury Department reports, were obtained through the Freedom of Information Act lawsuits, and other documents, including confidential U.S. and German intelligence reports, were leaked to attorneys for the families, and a court battle has ensued over whether that material can even be made public. So the truth can't always be known. Why? Because too many crooks are in office. They don't want you to know the truth. Well, the truth is coming out. And it's going to come out. If you, if I, or if anyone else likes it or not, guess what? It's on its way out. When the toothpaste is out of the tube, it's too late, buddy. It's out of the tube. And that's just how it works. Obama, Strange Love Obama, plays nuclear war video game with world leaders. Yeah, that's right. President Barack Obama turned the Nuclear Security Summit at Hague on Monday into what would be a Psy-War session on just how close we are to nuclear extinction over the strong protest by German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Obama, Prime Minister David Cameron of Britain, herded the 35 world leaders attending the 4th NSS into a computer game based on a scenario of terrorists attacking a major city with a stolen, dirty nuclear bomb. That's right. So while they should have been doing politics, they were playing a video game of a nuclear bomb going off somewhere, causing war and issues and tragedies. At the same time, we're knocking on hell's door in thermonuclear war against Russia and China. Why is Obama playing a video game at the conference? I mean, he could do that in his spare time. He could do that on the plane on the way over. He could do it on the limo on the way to the event. He could do it afterward, after dinner, and hanging out with some folks at a bar or one of their homes, prime ministers' homes. But, no, they do it at the event. Why? Because they want to show how arrogant and cocky they are and to rub it in the face of other world leaders and people, that they think this is a joke. And they don't give a rat's ass what you think, like, or do. They're going to do it their way. So when we talk about people like me about thermonuclear war, what are they doing now? They're not even denying it. They're not even calling me a conspiracy theorist anymore. Now they're just sitting back playing a video game and pretty much flipping us off and rubbing it in our faces. If we like it, if we don't. Now, speaking of 9/11, here is a rather in-depth report showing what would be Congress members at a meeting, an event in which disclosing this 28-page document that needs to be released to the American public to show who really was behind the 9/11 terror attacks in 2001 when George W. Bush was president. In order for us to get to the truth and see justice be served, we have to know who, what, why the things are happening. Who's to blame? We have to look into this. We have to discuss this. We have to consider this. It's time to get real. It's time to have that conversation, folks. So please watch this video and you will see that not just the Saudis, but also the British behind them are pulling the strings and are not the special interest greatest ally we have, but perhaps our greatest enemy. And that's not the people of Great Britain. That's the fascist queen and folks, the monarchy, the British monarchy and people that run the show behind the scenes. So God bless you, folks. This is an April monthly report for NoSpinNewsSource.com. We'll be seeing you shortly for the May edition. Please watch this video. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Good morning. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this conference, which is going to be discussing some of the most important issues affecting the relationships within Congress and the executive, relationships between government and its people, and the national security of our nation. It's very significant that this conference is being held the day after Senator Feinstein made her statements relative to the relationship between the inquiry, which has been conducted by the Senate Intelligence Committee, and the CIA. Because what we're going to be talking about today raises many of the same fundamental issues. Immediately after 9/11, the leadership of the House and Senate asked the chairs of the House and Senate Intelligence Committee to do what Congress had never done in 200 years, and that is to form a joint committee for purposes of conducting an inquiry as to what had happened in 9/11, with particular focus on the role of the United States intelligence community. We spent the better part of 15 months working on that inquiry. We had staff that represented persons who were knowledgeable in each of the intelligence community. We had persons who'd had experience in the Department of Justice and other law enforcement related agencies of the federal government. We conducted hundreds of interviews, read thousands of pages of documents, and in December of 2002 produced an 800+ page report. That report took over 6 months in the declassification process, and when the report was returned in publicly releasable form, there were a number of specific redactions. There were names and places and other specific pieces of evidence which were withheld. But the most stunning thing was an entire chapter, 28 pages, was censored from word 1 to the last word of the chapter. That chapter dealt primarily with who financed 9/11. That was a very fundamental question because it went to an even larger question, and that is, did those who committed that heinous attack on September the 11th, did they act alone, or were they supported by a network of individuals? All of the people who have been in leadership positions of investigations into 9/11 have come away with the feeling that it was implausible to believe that these 19 people, most of whom didn't speak English, most of whom had only been in the United States for, if any, a very brief period of time, could have carried out such a complex operation which required completion of the planning, the practicing, and then finally the execution of the plot. A key part of that question of whether they acted alone or had support related to the financing of 9/11. How could these people have financed a project that was as expensive in terms of the cost of the 19 individuals without having some support network? That missing chapter provides some evidence that would be important to answer the question of, did these people act alone? That chapter has now been censored since the summer of 2003, for over 10 years. Whatever reason there may have been for the initial censorship has long since passed. At the time that we heard that it was being censored, Senator Dick Shelby, a Republican from Alabama who was the vice chair of the Senate committee, and myself as chair, both agreed that there was no reason to censure that 28-page important chapter. No reason for national security reasons. But here we are 10 years later, and it continues to be censored. I want to thank the members of the Congress who are taking the leadership in using the prerogatives and I think obligations that Congress has in our system to demand that the executive release this information. It is important for a number of reasons. It's important for justice. There are thousands of Americans who are currently litigating against countries like Saudi Arabia and other entities for their complicity in 9/11, and therefore their responsibility to accept some of the horrific costs which have befallen those families because of the loss of a loved one. That justice to date has been denied in part because important information that would sustain their claims have been withheld, such as this 28-page chapter. Second, it's important to set the historical record correct. If we are going to not repeat the past, but learn from the past in order to avoid incidents such as 9/11 in the future, we need to know everything we can, as truthfully and fully as possible, about what actually happened on 9/11 and in the preparation for 9/11. And finally, it's a matter of current national security. If you feel, as I do, that there was a network of support for the 9/11 hijackers, what reason do we have to believe that that network was abandoned immediately after 9/11? What reason do we have to believe that it's not in existence today, ready to be used for a future attack against the United States? These are the issues that are at stake in the question of whether the executive branch, with the concurrence and leadership of the members of Congress, will make this information available to the American public, so we will be a more just, a more informed, and a more secure nation in the future. I again express my appreciation for those who are leading this effort, and I wish you well. Thank you.
We start the press conference. I'm going to speak very briefly. Then I'm going to call on Congressman Stephen Lynch, and he will reintroduce himself for the press, and then Congressman Thomas Massie, and then the families. But I'm going to read the order of the speakers, and then make my brief comments, and then turn it over to Stephen Lynch. That are here today, and they again will reintroduce themselves: Terry Estrada, Alice Hoagland, and Sylvia Carver. These are family members who lost loved ones during 9/11, so therefore I will let them explain why they're here today and why they support H Resolution 428. Several years ago, I read this book written by Bob Graham. It's called Intelligence Matters. The subtitle tells you more than just the title of the book. And it's the CIA, the FBI, Saudi Arabia, and the failure of America's war on terror. If you remember, Bob Graham was one of the co-chairmen of the 9/11 Commission. And he, for a number of years, has been outspoken on this issue of the 28 pages, of why the 28 pages in the report were classified. And he has been calling for a declassification of the 28 pages. I want to give him the credit today because he is the one that got me interested in this issue. I'm from North Carolina. I have never met with so many families that have lost loved ones in the 3 tragedies that happened on 9/11. After reading the information, the way the process works very quickly. A member of the House has to write a letter to the chairman, Mike Rogers, and the ranking member, Dutch Rupenberger, and ask permission to go down in a classified setting to read the information. So we write the letter, and mine took about 3 or 4 weeks before they responded back to say that we give you the authorization. The room is guarded, which we can understand. It's very much needed, probably. And then when you go in to read the 28 pages, you have someone sitting with you, so you cannot take any notes. It's whatever you might remember. And we cannot divulge, or we would be in serious trouble here as a member of Congress if we divulged any of the information that we read. A couple of other points very quickly. I do not think a nation like America will remain strong if the nation does not demand the truth. And after reading the 28 pages, I can honestly say, in my opinion, I can't speak for these 2 men, there's nothing that deals with national security. There are other issues, but not national security issues. That's why the call by the families across this nation, with 3 families being here today, the families have called on Congress for a number of years, along with Senator Bob Graham, to declassify the 28 pages. And I want to thank the families for being here today. I will close this press conference, and we will allow you to ask questions. But with that, I'm going to ask Stephen Lynch from Massachusetts if he will speak, and then Thomas Massie from Kentucky will follow him, and then the families will come up. So thank you for being here today. And Stephen Lynch is a co-sponsor of this legislation. Thomas Massie has joined Stephen and myself and 4 other members of the House in this legislation, calling for the President to release this information. And so therefore, we need for you to put pressure on your representative back home to join in this effort for the truth. Stephen Lynch.
Okay. Thank you, Walter. Thank you, my friend. First of all, I want to thank the families for being here. As much as we might encourage members to go and read the classified information and to join us, really the power of the families, and I have a lot of families in my district and from Massachusetts that lost loved ones on those flights coming out of Boston. And so I just want to thank you for turning your loss and your grief into a positive step for all of our country. And I think it's very important to have your support. We appreciate it. I want to thank you all for being here. Today we're here to bring attention to House Resolution 428, which Congressman Jones and I have jointly introduced, and which Congressman Massie has co-sponsored. In December, we initially introduced this bill, and this important resolution calls for the declassification of the 28-page section of the Joint Congressional Inquiry into intelligence activities before and after the terrorist attacks of September of 2001. It is important to remember that these were not simply sections that were redacted, which is quite common in these type of intelligence reports. This 28 pages was excised. So the entire section, 28 pages, was removed from the body of work that was actually presented to the public. I'd like to begin by thanking my dear friend and colleague, Congressman Jones, for all of his efforts on behalf of this issue and for our families and for our country, and for working with me to craft this resolution. I'd also like to acknowledge former Senator and former Chairman of the Senate Select Intelligence Committee, Bob Graham, for his work. He was unable to be here with us today, but he did send a message of support, and Senator Graham has worked tirelessly to see that these pages are made public. I had the opportunity to maintain contact with him by phone, and also here again today, our families of the victims of the tragic attacks on September 11th, 2001. Our nation suffered a terrible loss, and we were all devastated by the horrific events on 9/11. Another strange coincidence is that I was elected in the Democratic primary in Massachusetts on September 11th. That's the day I'm the first post 9/11 member of Congress. So the world changed, Washington changed, my responsibility changed, a lot of lives changed on that day, and that is not lost on me. But importantly, the families here today, men and women who lost sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, husbands, wives, brothers and sisters, their families and their lives were forever altered that day. The American people and the families of the victims in particular deserve answers and deserve the opportunity to have a greater understanding of these events, and that has yet to happen, unfortunately. 12 years after the attacks, many unanswered questions still remain. I strongly believe that these pages contain information that is vital to a full understanding of the attacks on 9/11 and the circumstances that led to them. But this is not only a question of transparency, which Walter talked to. It's not just that transparency is good in this case and looking back and answering questions. I think also these 28 pages, the nature of the disclosures here, I think is instructive to our foreign policy going forward. So it is not just looking backward, it is actually informing Congress to make sound, solid decisions going forward. That might be the most valuable. While there is certainly decency and justification for releasing these documents, there's also, I think, instructive value going forward. I read the classified sections this past October after being encouraged to do so by my friend Mr. Jones, and after reading them, it became clear to me that we owed it to the families of the victims and to the American public to work to make these pages available. I do want to just add a little of the details as Walter correctly laid out sort of the situation. You know, it's a somewhat cumbersome process for a member of Congress that has 9,000 other things to do. But you've got to submit your letter down there, you go down, and they sit with you, and you really don't have an opportunity to answer questions, and you're not allowed to take any notes. But after reading the 28 pages, I only said one thing during the time that I was there. And at the end of the day, I informed both intelligence officers who were there with me that day. I said, I need to be honest with you. And I said, when I get up from this table and I go out that door, I said, I am going to sponsor a resolution before the United States Congress to make this information public. And they both scratched down notes of their own. They were allowed to keep notes, but I said, that's how important I think this is. And I said, I think it's important that I be honest with you. Because I feel so strongly about this. I'm pleased to be working with my colleagues from North Carolina, Congressman Walter Jones and Mr. Massey from Kentucky. I think Mr. Grimm from New York is on board. I know that I'm trying to thank Congressman California, Alcee Hastings from Florida, Congressman California, Dana Rohraback is also on board, and so we have growing interest because of the involvement of the families of the victims. And we want to make sure that these pages see the light of day. And I want to take this opportunity just to urge my colleagues and the House of Representatives to review these pages and work with us to ensure that they are declassified, to encourage the President to take that step and declassify these documents. Thank you. May God bless you. May God have mercy on the victims and their families. And may God continue to bless these United States of America. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
I'm going to be brief. I want to echo the statements of Congressman Jones and Congressman Lynch. I'm Thomas Massey from Kentucky. Look, this is something that the families deserve to know. This information. It's been a decade, over a decade, 13 years since this event happened, and we've had a narrative in the media and in the press and in the collective American conscience of what happened that day, but I don't think it's fully informed, and it won't be fully informed until everybody gets to see these 28 pages. And just to echo what Congressman Lynch said, I'm here for the families, but I'm also here for our country to look forward. We have to decide how to prevent another 9/11 type event from happening. Until you have the full picture of what actually happened, the intelligence picture, how can you participate in that debate? How can we know that what we do will prevent another 9/11 from happening? And how can we know that some of the things that maybe we would otherwise endeavor to do might be overreactions? So also I want to talk about the experience of sitting down and reading these 28 pages. It's in a room where it's soundproof and you're escorted in there and you're escorted out and there are no notes. But this is something that's sort of shocking when you read it. As I read it, and we all had our own experience, I had to stop every couple pages and just sort of absorb and try to rearrange my understanding of history for the past 13 years and the years leading up to that. It challenges you to rethink everything. And so I think the whole country needs to go through that. It's going to be difficult and it could be embarrassing. But that is no reason to keep the truth from the American people. I want to finish with two challenges. I want to challenge all the congressmen who have not read these 28 pages, who have the ability to go read these 28 pages, to do it for your constituents. There are 435 districts in this country. Every congressman needs to see these 28 pages. And then I challenge them to co-sponsor Congressman Jones and Congressman Lynch's bill like I have. And finally, the final challenge I want to issue is to those who would keep these pages secret. You need to have your own press conference. You need to be held to a standard to answer the questions. Why do you want to keep these 28 pages secret? In my estimation, as shocking as the 28 pages are, and as much as they sort of rearrange my understanding of what happened, I don't think it would hurt our national security to release this, and it would give families the answers they deserve as well. Thank you very much.
Thomas. Terry, let's start off. If you would come up and read it and introduce yourself again.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Hi, my name is Terry Strada. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today, and I thank you for your time. I co-chair the JASTA Action Committee with Sharon Crumley, and for the last 12 years served on the steering committee of 9/11 Families United for Justice Against Terrorism. I speak on behalf of over 6,000 family members and survivors. I am joined today with other members of the 9/11 community, and on behalf of everyone here, I would like to thank Congressman Walter Jones and Stephen Lynch for introducing House Resolution 428. I also thank former Senator Bob Graham, who has tirelessly advocated for disclosure of the section of the Joint Inquiry's report that has been kept a secret for 12 long years. I want to tell you why House Resolution 428 is so important and introduce to you fellow 9/11 family members who are also here to convey why we need this resolution to pass. Like all of them, I suffered a heartbreaking personal loss on September 11th. My husband Tom was killed while at work for Cantor Fitzgerald in the North Tower of the World Trade Center on the 104th floor. He was the love of my life. Our children were 7, 4, and 4 days old. Tom is a devoted family man, and we miss him each and every day. Because of 9/11, my children are 3 amongst 3,000 children who suffered the loss of a parent at the hands of terrorism and are growing up today without a mother or a father. Ground Zero rescue workers are sick and dying to this day. Even after 12 long years, the death toll continues to rise. I stand here today in support of House Resolution 428 because I don't believe people should get away with murder, and that is exactly what has happened. The people who gave financial, material, and logistical support to the 19 hijackers, though equally responsible along with the actual hijackers, have been held free from any accountability. No one has been held accountable in the eyes of justice for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children killed here in America, in our country, on our soil. One chief obstacle to accountability has been a fixation on obsessive secrecy afforded to protect those responsible for the murder of our friends and our family on 9/11. I say our because I recognize that on 9/11 we all lost someone we love. And what brings us here today should concern all Americans. While my children and I lost Tom in that attack, the secrecy that continues to protect the behind-the-scenes supporters of terrorists continues to threaten all Americans. For our own security, we cannot continue to allow our government to keep secret the most crucial facts of the worst terrorist attack on American soil. I am not speaking hypothetically. The very subject of the 28 pages torn from a congressional report investigating the 9/11 attacks is the specific sources of foreign support for the 9/11 hijackers. Incredibly, for over a decade, we have been denied the truth about who else was part of the planning and implementation of 9/11. In fact, on August 1st, 2003, Senators Chuck Schumer and Sam Brownback, joined by 44 other senators, including now former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and current Secretary of State John Kerry, wrote a letter urging then President George W. Bush to declassify the 28 pages. Imagine that, 2003, 10 years ago. In that letter, they said, and I quote, "Unfortunately, because all but 2 pages of the entire section have been deemed too secret for public disclosure, the American people remain in the dark about other countries that may have facilitated the terrorist attacks." End of quote. In my book, deeming too secret equates to lying. Why was the decision made to keep the truth from my family and the American people? Sadly, the answer has become painfully clear. As I see it, and I hear my views echoed by the honorable men here who have read and have even been involved in writing, which is Senator Bob Graham, the real concern is not about our security or protecting the American people from terrorist complicity, as much as it is about protecting the Saudi regime from embarrassment or any public penalty. Sadly, concern for Saudi relationships has taken precedence over the safety of the American people. I am not here to advocate the public release of information that would place our nation's security at risk, but I also cannot condone excessive secrecy simply to appease the so-called allies while they plot against us. And as you've heard today, the representatives here, they do not believe anything in this report jeopardizes national security. These are honorable public servants, and I believe them. In short, this is not an academic question. We don't simply want to know the truth. The truth must be exposed if our leaders are going to navigate the thorny problems of an increasingly dangerous world. Al-Qaeda is pure evil, and so are their bankrollers. And if Americans generally are to be encouraged to offer responsible guidance to their elected leadership, as we should be, we must be informed truthfully. In fact, isn't that one of the purposes for which the report of the Joint Inquiry was authored? It is our responsibility as victims, family members, and survivors of 9/11 to fight for the truth to be told. It is our government's responsibility to expose other criminals of 9/11, the bankrollers, no matter who they may be. And it is you, the press's responsibility, to report the whole truth, to report who funded the terrorist attacks that took place here over a decade ago, and who continues to fund attacks taking place all over the world. The omission of such facts leaves us all less informed, more vulnerable, and less safe. Today we have an opportunity to stop the secrets and tell the truth. I urge every member of Congress to take the time and read those 28 pages. I ask every member to join us today in our request for support of Resolution 428. I also ask the President of the United States, our President, Mr. President, please declassify these 28 pages now. Not next year, not in the future. Make good on your promise you made to 9/11 families in 2009 and allow the truth to be told. I will leave you with one final thought. On 9/11, thankfully, you were very lucky. Only by the courageous actions of a few passengers on the doomed airline Flight 93 were your lives spared. You were the targets intended to be killed next, and if that occurred, it would be your family member here today, insisting that the truth be told. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alice Humblin. I'm usually about 4 octaves higher, but got a little cold on my way to Washington. I'm very grateful this morning for the words of Congressman Massey and Congressman Lynch and Congressman Jones. I'm so grateful that this horrible situation is finally going to come to an end. As Terry alluded, Flight 93, according to its hijackers, according to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the mastermind of 9/11, so-called, Flight 93 was intended to smash into the Capitol dome. Instead, because of the actions of a handful of guys on board Flight 93, it smashed instead into the soft soil in southwest Pennsylvania, killing no one except those on board. 40 innocent people and 4 loathsome, thuggish hijackers. I joined this group of 9/11 family members and these fine congressmen in our effort to make sure that the full truth about 9/11 is brought forward. Before there was the 9/11 Commission, there was the joint inquiry into the intelligence community activities of the terrorist attacks of 9/11, and that was published in December of 2002. And as Congressman Jones has said, Senator Bob Graham was one of the important writers of the 28 excised pages. Those pages are unavailable to us, and they're just about unavailable to the congressman, I gather from what they're telling me. It would be a very intimidating thing to go down flights of stairs and read something and wish you could take notes and not be allowed to because of the watchful gaze of a security officer. I'm going to quote Senator Graham, why it's so important that the President of the United States, Barack Obama, would consider this ill-advised notion that those 28 pages do not affect us today. Senator Graham says, in this case, the presidents have withheld aggressively and extensively, and by that have both kept the public from fully knowing what happened, and because there has been no flow of information that contributed to the issue now increasingly being looked upon as one of past history. And if we look upon the lessons of 9/11 as past history, we do so at our peril. Because as we know from the tragic news coming out of Malaysia, the specter of terrorism still lives with us. We still face it every day, and if we become complacent in the face of these 28 unavailable pages and in the face of mounting evidence that we are still the targets of terrorism, we will be affected by terrorism. My heart goes out to you all for making sure that this issue stays alive as I sit in fellowship with the folks here who lost their loved ones at the Pentagon, at the World Trade Center, and on Flight 93. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Carver. I am one of the 9/11 family. Our sister, Sharon A. Carver, was murdered at the Pentagon on 9/11 along with 183 other loyal Americans. Today I would like to thank the congressman for making it possible for us to speak today here. And I would like to also thank the press for being here today. one of our purposes for being here is because we would like the 28 pages released, and we would like the support of all Congress members in supporting this, as well as the President of the United States to release the 28 pages. On 9/11, we lost our sister Sharon. She was 38 years old. She didn't have a chance to fall in love, get married, and have children. So we had nothing left from Sharon except our memory. All that we ask is that we be given a chance to seek justice and to hold the murderers of 9/11 accountable for what they've done. As any family members who have lost someone to a crime, we deserve closure. We deserve the right to face these cowards in a court of law, and we deserve answers. And that's all that we are seeking here today. We deserve answers. We have a right to know. And if Congress will support this declassification of 28 pages, and if the President of the United States would just declassify these pages, we will have the answers that we have been seeking for more than 12 years now. We have the right to know the full story behind 9/11. We have the right to know what's in the 28 pages. So please declassify these pages so our families and all the families of 9/11, as well as the American people, can have the full truth. We deserve this, so we can move on with our life and have closure. Thank you.
Ms. Carter, thank you. Let me ask the families, are you willing to take a few questions? And we're going to limit the questions to about 5, 6, or 7. And then if you want to see a family member outside, certainly if they would be glad to meet with you. Would y'all come up? Is that okay? We're taking about 6 or 7 questions.
Congressman, what does this missing section tell us? Why do we need to know about it?
Well, actually,
please go nearer to the microphone.
Excuse me.
What is in it that we need to know?
The families have stated much better than I.
I didn't hear that.
Well, but the families have said that this information that has not been declassified, which President Obama said in 2009, meeting with the families, one of them just stated this, that he would declassify this information. It is information that will help to bring closure, not totally, but closure to the tragedy of 9/11.
What did President Bush?
We cannot. We have read it. We cannot answer any more questions because I am not. Nor are these two members of Congress do anything that say we violated the oath that we've taken. So with that, if you would like, let Stephen speak or Thomas, but then I want the families to come up and we'll take 5 or 6 questions because they've been here. This is very painful.
I think you all understand the nature of classified information and the obligations that we're under. You're free to ask questions, but please don't ask myself or the other congressmen that have read the information to disclose classified information. That would not serve us or serve the country well. There's a way to get this in the public. We're taking those steps. This is the proper way to do it. We do believe it should be made public, and that's what this resolution would do. It would call upon members of Congress to ask the president to declassify. The president, it's his order that keeps these pages hidden. So that's the way it was classified, and we can undo that through a democratic process, and that's what we're encouraging.
What sort of feedback have you gotten from the leadership on this resolution? My understanding is, perhaps incorrectly, that it's sitting in committee and there hasn't been any action. That would seem to suggest there's a whole lot of support.
Real quickly, because I want the families to have their time with you if they want to have that time. This is the beginning of a process. We have done radio shows nationally. We have great interest in newspaper call. We are beginning to beat the drum today. That's what this news conference is about, is beating the drum, and every beat of the drum says, we want the truth. We want the truth. And that's what this is about, and it's not going to go away. Today is not the end of this effort. Today is the beginning, and we're going to win this for the families and for the American people. Would you like to? I'm gonna let the ladies come up. If you got 5 or 6 questions, then we members of Congress can talk to you afterwards. But this is stressful for them, I know.
What's in the report that'll help you?
Well,
What do you need help on?
there are 2 books I'd recommend to you, written by Senator Bob Graham. One of them is called Intelligence Matters. It's a work of nonfiction, and he has gone into fiction by writing The Keys to the Kingdom, which is a suspense thriller, a fiction novel by Senator Bob Graham. This is
What did he say?
well, I'm in the middle of reading Keys to the Kingdom.
What you read, what did he say?
Senator Graham has expressed that we need to more thoroughly look at the actions of Saudi Arabia in the events of 9/11. He has said this freely, as we have, I've listened to his interviews, and I've tried to educate myself a little bit about what Senator Graham has, what has triggered his extreme concern about this. That extreme concern which has brought the support of the other congressmen. He helped write those 28 pages, and he is convinced that they need to be brought into the public eye in spite of the excision by President Bush and the continuation, the sustenance of that excision by President Obama in violation of his promise to the 9/11 families that he would work to get those 28 pages.
Yeah, and just can we do that in just a minute?
Sure, if you want.
Yeah, just a second. I'd like to.
Could you do it? Could you spell it?
Sure. Strada, S-T-R-A-D-A.
First name?
Terry, T-E-R-R-Y. Alice Hoagland, it's H-O-A-G-L-A-N-D. And Sylvia Carver, C-A-R-V-E-R.
Sylvia Carver.
Thank you. I think maybe if I could explain to you for a moment, there is this other layer to 9/11 that really hasn't been exposed. We know about the hijackers and we know what happened, but we don't know about, or what is now coming to light, are these cells that were out in California, Sarasota and Los Angeles, all the way down to Sarasota, Florida, Little Falls, Virginia. There were groups of Saudi Arabian nationals that were here for years before and during the 9/11 hijackers' time in this country, giving them the financial support that they needed to carry out their crimes against us. It's not cheap to live here, so if you're here for 2 years and you have apartments and you're renting cars and you are buying first-class airline tickets to practice your acts, where was that money coming from? What we are being led to believe, most of it was coming from Saudi Arabia. And that needs to come out. That truth needs to be told. It should scare the hell out of all Americans that they were living here amongst us for 2 years doing this before they actually carried out 9/11. And to me, that's a big reason why the 28 pages need to be released. It speaks to the financial assistance that was given to some of the 9/11 hijackers while they were here living in this country for nearly 2 years.
Yes.
2 questions for the family members. Number one, you referenced the meetings that took place, I believe, in February of 2009 in the Oval Office. What was the understanding that you got from President Obama? Obviously, it was a priority for him to meet with you one of his very first weeks in office as president.
Right.
What's your understanding of what he actually promised to do at the time? If you can say something about that.
Yes.
Well, I didn't get invited. I was out in California.
No, but I do know from a 9/11 family member that was there. She has told me herself personally that they asked him, will you declassify the 28 pages? And he said yes, that he would.
Good.
We'll take 1 or 2 more questions and then we bring it to an end. Anyone? If you don't have.
Where are you from?
I'm from Los Gatos, California.
New Vernon, New Jersey.
White Plains, Maryland.
I understand that the federal courts have recently reinstated a lawsuit and have basically said that a number of named individual Saudi officials and at least one private entity, Dala Aviation, are now once again subject to federal court. Could you say something about that action?
Well, we know that the release of those 28 pages would be very interesting, vital for the pursuit of actions against Saudi Arabia by the 9/11 family members. But beyond that, it's important to release those 28 pages because our national security is going to be threatened going forward. If we continue to think of Saudi Arabia as an ally, we will be led down the primrose path. There are things that Saudi Arabia has done to help us, but it's remarkable what I learned in this work of fiction by Senator Bob Graham, the Keys to the Kingdom. It's remarkable the role of Saudi Arabian important prominent families called the Golden Chain, and how very much they helped to ensconce people, Saudi Arabian nationals, into San Diego and into a town in New Jersey and down in Sarasota, Florida, which especially rankles the senator because that's his hometown, his home state.
We'll take the question back here, and this would be the last question, but you can see the ladies if they want to talk to you when we finish the news conference. This will be the last question.
But don't you think that there's at least some national interest in the relationship with Saudi Arabia? Obviously, the administration and the State Department think that there is a value there, and also, therefore, in having kept the 28 pages classified for so long.
Are you asking me? I think that it is extremely valuable to maintain our relationship with Saudi Arabia. But I think that it is important for us to go into it with our eyes open, to understand Saudi Arabia's sympathies and its past actions, and to realize that there is not an entire, that is not innocuous, that the relationship is flawed, and it is political in some respects.
How do you know the 28 pages deal with Saudi Arabia?
Well, because Senator Graham has said so.
You will see his video. It'll become available after this press conference. He has said it a number of times.
He has said it.
He has said it a number of times.
Well, if you accept the word of Senator Bob Graham, you'll realize that Saudi Arabia plays a key role in 9/11. And is mentioned frequently in this 28 pages. Sorry.
I thought Senator Graham was going to be here. No. Just you stay where you are. Senator Graham was going to give us a video that he would be making a statement in support of this effort and in support of the families. There was a glitch in putting the technology together. They have told us and announced before we got here that they will get this comment and video statement by Bob Graham to our office, and we will disperse it to anyone in the press that would like to have it emailed to you. You will have it if you'd like to have it.
Can I pose one last question, members of Congress? And I understand this is classified and you get in trouble if you deal with names and specifics. But is it fair to infer from what you've said that what is contained in 28 pages deals with the activities of the foreign government that worked against the United States?
As Stephen Lynch just whispered to me, that the pages speak for themselves. And if these pages are made public, then you will have the answer you're looking for. Thank each and every one. The families get the biggest thing. This pain has been with them for over 12 years. And we thank you. You are important to whether we get this declassified or not. So thank you for being here. And my colleagues in Congress, thank you so much.
Thank you. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Donate now to OSO Washington mudslide relief efforts.